it's almost like when we're talking, you ask me something and I can't really like, I'm like, it kind of takes me off guard. But then once I listen to it, I'm like, oh, and then I can like pick other stuff out that I would have answered. I don't know. Cause I guess I've marinated on it a little bit. And so then listening back, I'm like, oh, why didn't I think of this? Like, why did I say work?
That was your default. That's like your unconscious, like, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And thank you for letting me share these.
Mm-hmm.
You're helping someone just like someone helped you. And it lets people get exposed to the work that I do. So,
yeah.
So let's talk about how you've been. Like, what's going on?
I mean, I've had definitely, I think the other night, I was exhausted. We had traveled to get to where we were going, and there was a scenario where I was like, probably sharing my opinion where I probably didn't have to be, and it was about work. And he's like, not everybody wants to work to live instead of live to, or vice versa. And I was just like, I got very offended when he snapped at me, and granted he was out of line and he did admit that later, but it just kind of like, I was trying to calm and just go to bed and like wash my face, and I just couldn't. And then I was like really upset, and I was very vulnerable with him, which is not something that I normally do. So that was good.
Well, I want to know a little bit more about that. Between like, what was it that you were like, this is a moment to be vulnerable? Was that kind of from our last session, what we talked about?
Yes. And I was just trying to figure out, why do I feel this way? Why am I upset? Like, what do I want from this? Kind of like, I was just trying to like be present in the moment and not react. And it was obviously hard. We had a few drinks. I mean, by all means, I wasn't like wasted or anything like that.
Yeah, but you're relaxed.
It's still, yeah. So, and then I think he got a little defensive at one point, and then I was like, I don't know. I thought to myself, my defense mechanism, which is like run away, like go into the other room and just, I'll sleep here and then he can sleep there. And then I was like, I can't do that. Like, that's just not what I need. It's not what's going to work. That's not. So then I went back to the room and like we talked, and I was very vulnerable and just like, I cried, and I was like, I don't want to be this way. But whatever, I'm like, I'm just going to go in the other room. And he's like, okay, great. Here we go. Run away, like, and that hurt me. But at the same time, too, I get it because that's what I'm doing.
Right. This is kind of what I'm hearing, and is that he presents something that is true.
Yeah.
He presents something that is true. Like his statement about work, that was true. And it sounds to me, and I'm kind of seeing the consistency in this, is you really have an identity with your like your sense of self. Who you are is kind of enmeshed with your work. And honestly, I'm not going to judge that. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, except that maybe you haven't seen it enough. Maybe you are seeing it to where you can go, okay, well, there is the work me. That's and this part of me, and the way that I, again, handle emotions in that work environment with very strong survival skill has been really helpful. But in this scenario, it's not good. It's actually really not good.
Yeah. And I think it was okay, my work identity, I guess, until I recently became a manager back in October, because now it's overflowing in ways that I'm not able to like put a dam on it and like stop it. Like, it's overflowing, and it's almost at times it's not okay, because
like conditioning, you think, to where you're just, that's your mindset and you get into the
so I think before I was always like, oh, okay, well, like, they need me, and make yourself invaluable. That way they can't live without you and things like that. And that's okay. Well, now I'm a manager. So they call when I'm not at work, or customers call. And I've like Saturday, I think it was Saturday. Yeah, Saturday we were in downtown Athens, and I was like, customer called, and like an hour later, customer called, and I mean, he saw me like put it on, like mute it, send it to voicemail, you know. If it's that important, you know, and either way, if it's that important, you can. This guy knows that I'm a manager now. If it's that important, you can reach out to the shop. They can help you. We're open. I'm just not there, right? Like, respect my boundaries. And then I think he called like a third time, and I text, I am not responding to calls. I'm off today. The shop is open, or something like that. Like, I just stopped calling, you know? And he was like, I'll call you on Monday, is what the customer said. And it's just getting to a point where I think before I always let that happen and I would answer the call because it wasn't like, that's not my responsibility. It's not my job title anymore, is to help the guests directly. Right. So, and then on top of that, like, I've got my manager calling me, or like the GM calling, and then you've got all this overflow on days that are your normal days off, and it's becoming too much. Right. Because I'm like, it's intruding in my life. And maybe it's because I'm paying attention to now, okay, maybe I should have not identified with this. And now it's becoming obtrusive. Or maybe it's that Jeff's pointing it out and I see it, and I see that life can be more calm. Okay. It could be like a combination of a bunch of things. And it could just be that the management title is giving me, I don't think it is, because even when I would take lunch before, I would say to myself, there's no point even taking lunch because they call me the entire time I'm at lunch. Like, you can't even take a break. So it's always overflowed. I think I'm just now like trying to set boundaries and say, this is not healthy for me. It's not, it stresses me out. And I told David, I told him when I went on my vacation in February, and I was like, I'm purposely not going to take my phone out with me. So you'll be able to get in touch with me when I get back from the pool or the beach in the evening. And first thing in the morning, I will have my phone, right? But what can I really do when I'm in Mexico?
Right. And why would they need to?
Yeah. And so I think because I told him that and I conditioned him for that, he didn't reach out. Because again, what can I do when I'm in Mexico? Like, really, like.
And then they figured it out.
Yes. So, and I think that's just what I've got to start doing, is conditioning these people that, like, listen, you have to figure it out. And like the advisors, I had one today bring a guy to me, and she was like, he doesn't understand. And I go, what do you mean he doesn't understand? Well, she drops him in my office, she leaves, and then the thing is, he's Chinese, so he doesn't understand English.
Right.
But I'm not a translator. I don't know Chinese.
Oh my
Do I
God.
look like I know Chinese? So I said, do you understand what, like, we talked, and I said a couple of things, and I listened to him, and then I said, do you understand what I'm saying? And he said, no. And I go, we need translator, like Google Translate. And so I'm not going to do that, right? Like, that's not my job. I have other titles now. So I'm going to get you back to your advisor. And I looked at her and I said, you need to download Google Translate, and you need to communicate this with him. I'm going to do a request. That's fine. I will help him. But you need to communicate that with him. That's not my job, right? And I think for so long they thought, oh, she'll do it. She gets to a point where she'll just do it, you know? And that might, maybe when I was an advisor, but now I'm a manager. My job is to train you how to take care of the customer, like, so that you can be independent and you can get out of the nest. Like, that's what you got to do. So I'm learning that. I think it was always happening, but now it's starting to affect my psyche. And
okay.
Yeah.
Have you this is where my PhD in a leadership is going to come in. I'm going to bring my knowledge to the table right now. You're in a leadership position, right? And leadership requires that people are willing to be led. And in this case, that you are right. I think I definitely agree with you that I want to be invaluable so they can't live without me. Is coming back to haunt you. Anyways. But as a leader, I think this is where you are starting to develop a leadership muscle around good communication. Because to me, communication is a way for you to empower these people, right? So they come to you because they are on some level disempowered, aren't willing to quote unquote practice, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really know, I'm just going off of what you say. I don't know the details of what you're doing at work, but it seems to me that there is a breakdown somewhere, because they're coming to you with, here's a scenario, what do we do, right? And you're to train them in what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So empower them in that moment. Empower them to say, okay, well, what do you think? Like,
Mm-hmm.
those are teaching moments. And
Mm-hmm.
the more power you give them in those moments, and power to fail and suck at it.
Mm-hmm.
So that part might be, I mean, this is where you need to maybe pick apart, like, are they lacking confidence? Are they afraid to make mistakes? Right? If they're afraid to make a mistake, they're not going to want to take the risk of figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need to take a shortcut, and guess where that shortcut is? It's right to you in your office. So my first instinct is to think there's been some disempowerment.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably afraid to make a mistake. Have they been in an authoritarian environment where if they make a mistake, it's like they get in trouble, they can't complain, it's not a safe place. Is there lack of safety in terms of just being vulnerable at the work environment?
No,
Okay.
and with some of them I've said, okay, so what do you think you should do? And they're like this, and I go, perfect. So what are you going to do now? And they're like, okay, I'm going to go do that,
And that part, those are easy scenarios for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so in that case, you could give them that power. What'll happen is over time is they should start to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
They might say, hey, I'm going to make this decision, and then come to you and say, what are your thoughts? And in that case, you say, well, I think that's great, go do it, or look at it from these different angles. So that's where you're a mentor, because what you're also
Mm-hmm.
describing is not just leadership, but mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
You might not like the role. I don't know.
No, I don't mind it. I just feel like sometimes some of them, it's the same stuff over and over again. And it's like,
Okay, how can you lead them differently? So when in leadership positions, it requires someone is willing to be led. There's an interface of interaction. You guys are interacting in unison, right? Around what is the end goal and end result is customer satisfaction and a sale, right? They come back. This is not easy. But
most of them, but in my scenario, she's like in this scenario earlier, what I need to do is tell them, like, listen, I don't mind walking you through the depths of describing how we go through. He's displeased. He wants basically goodwill as the solution. And I knew that within 30 seconds of them walking in, even though he didn't speak Chinese. My problem is that she just left me to hang with him, right? Like, because then she's not learning. So I need to address with her, like, listen, I'm not your little scapegoat, because that's how I feel, And I, as a young advisor, when I first got in the business, that's what I had a manager say to me: don't leave me with somebody.
Okay, pause a second.
I will teach you. Yeah.
I got to rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not your scapegoat.
Yeah.
Is that a theme?
With them?
No, with you.
Advisors? Oh.
And
no, I wouldn't say.
Have you thought that maybe that wasn't what she did? It feels that way to you. I don't want to discount the way you feel, but your feelings are coming from an assumption that was what she was trying to do. Okay.
Yeah. And it might not have been.
Exactly. So in this scenario, as your leadership guru, okay, I would just say, hey, let's talk about this, because I think this could be done better. Right. And I don't want to make assumptions. And I don't want to, so please correct me if I'm wrong. You need to write that down.
Okay.
Because you're going to hear me say that to you.
Yeah.
Because all I can do over here in our interaction, right? Because I'm also a mentor. I am also a leader in our interaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
All I can do is guess, right? I can make assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to have you have to bring in your information for me to work from.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So, and I may or may not believe what you're saying because sometimes what you say is just your default. That, like I did in our last session, when I was like, yeah, there it is. There's the work response. Now think this through, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this case, set up a meeting because this is what you get to do as a manager. And just say, hey, I want to play this out because I want to learn a way that we can do this because it's probably going to happen again in a way that works for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I would not start with look, bitch. I'm not your freaking scapegoat. Because that's the authoritarian, right?
Yeah.
That's you being
Yeah.
like, I'm a freaking dominating bitch.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
fuck with this. So be able to get into there, question your assumption because that says more about you. Like my first thought is like, ooh, there's some scapegoating that you've experienced in your past because you clearly don't like it. It gives you a little bit of a like, ugh. So we don't need to go there, but
Yeah.
clarity
It could be
first,
that.
seek
Yeah.
understanding. She might have just froze and was embarrassed or didn't know what to do. Language barrier. She was probably just like panicked, is my assumption. Again, I'm assuming. Give her the platform to explain and describe it so you guys
Mm-hmm.
can have better communication so that you're not left sitting there. She's not leaving. And then it just sucks for both of you.
Yeah,
So.
and it's gonna happen again. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's better to have again lead those that follow in a way that you two can work together, and it's an actual cohesive environment to where she knows your expectations. That there's better communication in the future because it is going to happen again in some
Mm-hmm.
different scenario. Then you're actually working as a team rather than just dealing with conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Because it sounds like conflict, but it doesn't have to be that.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I could be wrong.
No, that's yeah. And actually thinking back on it, I realized that that's how I was made to it made me feel that way. But
Feelings are
then
not
when I went out
facts.
there, she was out there helping somebody else. So I know she was just in the weeds and she was trying to move on to something else.
Yeah, she felt probably, I'm assuming she felt overwhelmed and
Yeah.
incompetent to know what to do.
Yeah.
And she was like,
Yeah.
you're the one that's going to need to take this over. I don't know what I'm doing. Whereas that
Mhm.
could have been a moment, given that you guys have an
Mhm.
agreed upon way to interact, that it would have been a great way for her to learn,
Mhm.
for you to work together
Yeah.
and to let her do it so that she's developing that sense of like adaptability. Because clearly you are an adapting whore. You adapt to everything as quickly as you can. And that's the skill that you've developed. That's a muscle, right?
Mhm.
So good for you. I want to go back to your boyfriend situation.
Yeah.
Because in the end, I mean, what do you want to get out of this session right now? Like, what is it exactly you were hoping to talk about before we just keep on rambling?
Yeah. Well, I thought that it was interesting that the more things that we discuss about the lack of it's funny, it's not funny, but it's crazy, not crazy. It's just weird to me that in all my life I picked up that my family we didn't talk about our emotions, we didn't talk about things, and that's something that I did start doing after my addiction and stuff. I was always like, I'm gonna talk and walk through it. Actually, it was later than that. It was probably about 27 that I realized I was just sweeping things under the rug and I wasn't handling it. And I developed that, but then I never exercised the vulnerability of like needing affection or wanting affection. I just thought that I was never going to ever want it. I just thought it was just
that you were just naturally a cold, stiff human. Which is honestly just a sign of kind of like unaddressed childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also the fact that you were never given a safe place to actually verbally say and feel
Mm-hmm.
feelings and to process them, like we talked about, in a way that
Mm-hmm.
actually interacts. And this is really the key here. I mean, I would say that your experience with that coworker is probably very similar in that there was no interaction at the moment. You
Mm-hmm.
had an initial assumption that you were the scapegoat, which can feel being used or taken advantage of, and then that
Mm-hmm.
assumption then creates your reaction to her, which then can come
Yeah.
off as like an attack.
Authoritarian.
Yes, and you don't even know
Yes.
you're doing it, but that's what you're doing.
Uh,
So children that are raised in environments where the parents don't have emotional competence, they don't provide a safe place to talk. In fact, their way of dealing with divorce or conflict is to
smoke a
deny,
joint. Yeah.
deny, deflect, dismiss because they just can't be bothered.
Yeah.
It's avoidant.
Yeah.
And you're kind of matching some of those attachment style, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of dismissive and avoidant. And if anything gets a little like, ooh, the first thing you do is bail.
Yeah.
Or you get upset about it, or you start to like have, I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, but
I just
for,
feel like, I think since we've been talking about it, it's almost opening up the wound and making it more privy to happening, if that makes sense. Like, and
yes,
I've explained that to him. I said, I feel like I'm very,
you're
like,
trying not to cope.
yeah. And I'm like almost like this exposed, gaping wound. And at any moment, it's just like I'm trying to lick and clean it and heal.
Yeah.
And then something else happens, and it's almost like salt in the wound. And then it's like, it
Well,
just happens again.
yeah, and it's easy to go back to your default, which is
Yeah.
to kind of like get cold, get
Yeah.
stiff, and and to dismiss, right? So you're
Yeah.
avoiding and dismissing the way you were, because that's what you learned to cope with. You cope with those things. And so you end up doing that to others.
Mm-hmm.
So the I think for something for you to be aware of in that space where you feel like I have these, like all of a sudden I'm like, holy fuck, I did have kind of a traumatic childhood. I didn't get the tools. I didn't learn the tools. I never was given an environment to develop kind of like a way to handle conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, think of, you're capable of adapting, but not how much conflict, uh how much have you been able to go into a conflict in a relationship and resolve it? Well, without running away, without avoiding, dismissing, and abandoning.
Just recent,
Well, we're working on that, right? We're
Yeah.
working on
Yeah.
your ability to have conflict and to not
Mm-hmm.
become kind of like angry. Okay, those things that you're really good at, those are coping mechanisms that have empowered you, right? Have given you super independence. Again, I don't want to repeat, but I want to make sure that it's clear to you, like, holy shit, I've overdeveloped these muscles. And so these
Mm-hmm.
other muscles that I have that are vulnerable, that are willing to
Mm-hmm.
seek understanding rather than jumping to a conclusion, I need to pause in that moment between assumption, or the way you're taking in the information and how you're processing it and interpreting it. Because, like,
Mm-hmm.
we could say this, that you interpreted her behavior as scapegoating.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be wrong?
It could be.
That pause, right? And that's why I said that to you. I was like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought that? Because just because you felt it doesn't mean that's like your survival brain wanting to get ahead of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I described this to you before, but these mechanisms are they are hardwired in all of us. Me too. We are trying to get ahead of what we don't want. And so to jump to that conclusion before even knowing is a way to protect ourselves and to prevent it from happening. Can you see why that would be beneficial?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. But in relationships, it's toxic. It's considered a toxic cognitive distortion because you could be wrong. And so you're
Mm-hmm.
behaving as if you're correct to protect yourself, all the while disconnecting from people, making your friend group smaller, making your social environment smaller, isolating yourself because you are constantly kind of projecting your wounds from childhood onto the world around you. Like you have to continue to protect yourself from childhood wounds.
Mm-hmm.
Am I making sense?
Yeah. Yep.
So, with that said, yeah, that vulnerability, that open wound, the goal is to let yourself find a different way to heal and to address it. And you should feel like you're sensitive. You should feel a little triggered,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially since you're aware of that. Have you been able to go back and, well, have you really processed your childhood and the lack of affection, touch, addressing, actually honoring your emotional space?
I don't even know. I've looked back at it and I know that it wasn't. I know you asked like, what would you? How could you? How do you envision if that had been different? You know, and thinking about that, and I'm like, well, I wouldn't be like. I can't imagine. I can't imagine like if I. How could my life be different if
Right.
I? It's sad to really think about that because I mean, granted, I'm here now. It could be that I was never there, right? There's probably people that go through life and they never process it, but I just,
Yeah, I think that's fair what you just said, and I think that's actually really gracious and honorable, and I think you're 100% right. You're here right now, so
mm-hmm.
you're trying to stop the because you're apparently aware, at least in this case, that you want to have a loving relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That loving relationship is going to require, for it to be sustained, that you are vulnerable, that you
Mm-hmm.
don't jump to conclusions, that you don't protect yourself
Yeah.
because your way to protect yourself is kind of anti-relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't even matter who you're with. It's not about who you're with. It's truly
Mm-hmm.
about you and your childhood unresolved wounds. And once, like I said, there's nothing wrong with you. I don't think that you're flawed. I just think that you're overusing a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like it's time to try something new.
Yeah.
So, can you see then, if you're not
Yeah.
going to that armor and weaponry, and you feel exposed, right? Like, oh, you could easily pick up and do what you've done before. You can go right into that fight mode, very strong
Yeah.
fight mode, right? And then you're going to have remorse and regret. I mean, tell me this, how much do you have in your history? Can you see where you blew something up and ended a relationship and it didn't have to be that way?
Oh, I'm sure a few times. I'm sure a few times I was like, felt like maybe they were going to eventually end and then I kind of felt unwavering and then shortly after ended it, you know, whereas it might not have been that way. I was just assuming it, you know, or I
Oh,
was just
yeah.
thinking it because of my insecurity, you know, and
Oh, you just hit the nail on the head. Yeah, where
yeah.
you were making that up. So then you shifted your whole,
Mm-hmm. Perspective and everything was okay. And then it
and
was like,
then it's sabotage.
yeah.
That is a protective mechanism. That's that jumping to conclusions and
Mm-hmm.
then making decisions, not thinking you could be wrong. But that is a protection. You're trying to protect yourself. And that protection is really keeping you from actually resolving any of this or actually coming out of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like, and please do not get your feelings hurt because I'm not saying this in a demeaning way, emotional immaturity in certain
Mm-hmm.
areas,
Yeah, for
right?
sure. Well, for sure. Because I mean, I remember you said last week, like, thinking about being present, you know, like actually thinking about, and I practiced that a couple of times, just like because I had to Google it. I was like, how does one become more present? You know, like I didn't understand even like
You have to be safe.
yeah.
You have to be in a safe place. That's why it was like you're going to win the lottery. What I would travel. That is you're present in that moment to go, ooh,
Mm-hmm.
curiosity. Curious.
Mm-hmm.
learning new things, being inspired.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's real. But
Mm-hmm.
in order for you to have that presence or to be in the, like, be with your experience and be with your feelings, is you have to um you have to be open to finding out what it is. And that's scary,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's scary because you have to actually feel the feeling. You have to allow
Mm-hmm.
feelings to come up. So there could be moral injury, for example. Do you know what moral injury is?
No.
Like regret and remorse over being mean to someone. Have you ever been really mean to someone even when you were a little kid, knowing full well that it was being mean, but you just couldn't stop yourself and then you justified it, and but
Probably.
then you
I'm
feel
sure.
bad underneath it all. You're like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god." But you can't say sorry because then people would find out that you were wrong and then you'd have to feel bad. Then you'd look weak.
Mm-hmm.
That's a moral injury
Yeah.
because underneath it all, you feel bad.
Mm-hmm. And you can't.
Well, you try to remove that feeling of remorse, because if you have remorse, then you would say you're sorry and then you might try to make it better. But you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you go like burn, leave,
Mm-hmm.
abandon, right? Or you go into it and you say, I really feel bad about how I treated you. You know what that means? That you would have to change, that you would have to
Mm-hmm.
be vulnerable. You would have to expose yourself as weak. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the question is, what's wrong with being weak?
Nothing. I mean, the more I think about it, at first, yeah, that's what my inclination was, is that that's weak. I think that's just,
Notice
but the
how
more
it's
I think
pejorative,
about it,
like that's weak. That's why we're
yeah,
questioning it.
yeah. I think now looking back on it, it's just something that I'm not used to. So it's unfamiliar. So that maybe is why I think of it as weak, or um, it's just something that I'm not used to. So does it mean that it would be bad to be that way? No. Is it something that there's a couple of times where I had to like question, like over the weekend or even today. I did not sleep well. My back was in pain. I was crabby, and I was like, I had to check in on myself and be like, what is going on? Because I don't want to be this way. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
leader and I don't want to be this way. So like I was trying to be like, okay, what's the deal? And I'm like, I just don't feel well. And I'm not, it's not okay in this scenario. I need to get my head out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I need to get through this because they don't deserve that, right?
Right.
Or there was a couple of times over the weekend where it was just like I had to think and something happened, or sly joke here, and I could have taken offense to it, and then I'm like, you know what? It's okay. It was just a joke. Like it was just a joke. It was maybe not placed well or whatever, but it's okay. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
fine. And I just had a kind of mental check, like which
That
I'm
was good.
not used to doing that. Like I'm not used to checking in and going, hey, wait a second, hold on before you react.
Mm-hmm. The space, right? There's
Yeah.
put space between the reaction and the first thought. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's being present in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what you did. That's it.
I know.
How does
I
that
tried
feel?
it, but I probably could have tried it a couple more times.
Well, it takes
But
practice. It takes practice, and you need to be in a place where it's okay to be weak. Remember, you got to take away the judgment. Do you remember that part of the conversation? Like if you're
yeah.
critical, you're not going to give yourself the space. But this is the power of humility, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The accepting that you are fallible. You could be wrong, and you have been wrong. And honestly, we're all wrong. We're all functioning in this place of like we know. Well, right. So if you're not willing to be humble, which means the willingness to show that you are fallible,
Mm-hmm.
can anything change?
Nothing can.
So
Yeah.
this is why there's been no emotional maturity over the course of how many years?
Yeah, my whole life.
Correct. Right. And this is how people can get older and not change whatsoever, not improve, because the unwillingness to recognize their fallibility and to actually own it. Not in a way that you're like, I'm fallible, therefore I suck. It's I'm
Yeah.
fallible and I am still a worthy human being, where you
Mm-hmm.
actually go into your self worth. This is definitely an issue of self worth. Have we gone there yet?
Mm-mm.
Okay, this is honestly really hard to teach. So I'm going to try to do the best I can, and let me know if you're confused or it sounds like a bunch of woo woo. Okay.
Okay.
So when I think of my self worth, I think of my human essence and the worth of the life I'm experiencing because I'm alive, I'm in a body. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this body is experiencing this earth, this room, these colors, the air, the music, talking to you. And I am passively experiencing it. What am I actually doing? The me, the Robin. I'm doing nothing. I don't even know
Mm-hmm.
how my tongue is working. It's just formulating these words,
Mm-hmm.
right? My brain is just processing. It's honestly a trip when you think about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
where did I wake myself up this morning, or did my brain chemistry magically create
Mm-hmm.
consciousness when I was unconscious? And how the hell did I become unconscious to sleep? I
Mm-hmm.
don't freaking know. I'm just experiencing a human reality
Experience.
with
Mm-hmm.
human consciousness, with human limitations, with evolution from hundreds of thousands of years defining my fingers, like how they work. I mean, it's honestly pretty magical. So
Mm-hmm.
my self-worth is ultimately me as the experiencer that has a consciousness of me. There is an awareness that there's a me here, right?
Mm-hmm.
We could say it's a locus, like a point, a focal point of awareness that is experiencing. Some people call it the experiencer. I'm just an experiencing humanness. And guess what? My dog, the dog, he's having an experience of a dog, like his dog
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, his dog feelings and emotions, what inspires him, what motivates him, all of those functions, all of those mechanisms around when he chooses to bark or not. He's just experiencing it. Well, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
You're a human experiencing a human experience. How much of it are you actually in control over?
Mm-hmm.
The question is, do you value your life and the experience you're having? Is it worthy of experiencing?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm attached to this body. This body's providing me consciousness. And I really think that it is of value. Now, because we are pack animals, we have all sorts of social identity. So when I say, what's my self worth? It's one, how much do I value my experience? This experience, it's not necessarily mine because I'm just experiencing it. How much do I value this life and the experience I'm getting while I'm consciously attached to this body? One. Number two, as a human being interacting with other human beings, am I worthy? Am I worthy of connection? Am I worthy of love, worthy of community, and worthy of being a human in a pack? So my answer is yes and yes. So I value my life and my experience. I want to do something with it. I have every day I wake up, what do I want to do? I get to play with it. So I value
Mm-hmm.
that. And I value that I think that no matter what, I am a worthy human being.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I don't mean harm to anybody. I'm not intentionally trying to torture little kitties for fun. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mean harm. Do you mean harm?
Mm-mm.
Okay, is that not so what's wrong with you? So your experience as a human, right, is as simple as this. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Is that right now? Let's think about the color wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the color wheel in your mind, and it may be blue, but what color is just like oh yeah, I'm really attracted to that right now because it could change.
It's blue.
Okay. So
Blue,
is
blue,
that
green,
so
green,
when you
blue.
feel the blue, blue, green, it's kind of exciting. It's kind of like you're attracted to it for whatever reason. Is that not a valuable answer?
Mm-hmm.
That's got yeah, right. So that's self-worth. That is literally the essence of self-worth. Say that my answer of blue is real
Matters.
and
Mm-hmm.
it matters. Yeah. So to be vulnerable is an act of worth. That I
Mm-hmm.
can make mistakes and I'm still worthy. That I can fuck things up. I am still worthy. I don't intend harm. I want to make things right, but I want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn more. I want to navigate this life in a different way because it's
Mm-hmm.
worth it. And I'm worth it. So it's not a narcissistic, I'm superior than others. There's no hierarchy in this. There's no like
Mm-hmm.
inferior superior. It's we're all here having our own human experience and each of us has a we have a whole piece of like a book to write about what we want to do with it and what we're learning and how I'm interacting as a human being, some of which is out of our control because like these impulses, like your fight or flight
Mm-hmm.
reactions, how much of that did you go of all of the choices I think I'm going to fight? No.
Mm-hmm.
But with presence and the want and desire to actually have connection with others, you're more willing to interact with them. You're more willing to want to know more about their experience. So part of
Mm-hmm.
the problem with this type of avoidant and dismissive kind of way of interacting with people is the fact that, oh my God, I lost my thought. What was my,
It's is it that it's kind of self-centered
oh,
because
totally.
it's not.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. You just did it. And you're projecting your experience out there as if that's the only
Yeah.
way to be a human.
Yeah.
Like
It's not
my
caring of their side of it.
oh, yeah. You're not seeing that there is a whole reality of difference that they have, that maybe they didn't have an avoidant family. Maybe they got attention and maybe they had someone talk to them. So when they come to you to talk about their emotions,
Mm-hmm.
you're thinking, well, that must be manipulative. They're trying to manipulate me.
And they're like, "What is wrong with her?"
I just wanted to work with you to make things better. But you're going manipulation, right? Because you don't have access to those feelings. So you would just assume
Mhm.
that they're just pretending, not realizing that that person's bringing their experience to you and you could interface with it and actually be impacted and your relationship could be improved because they come to inform you of their experience and then that experience can inform you. But if you're trying to avoid vulnerability, you're trying to avoid weakness, that you're
Mhm.
fallible, that you could do wrong. You're trying to avoid all of that because to you, that was traumatic as a child,
Mhm.
right? So that part of the vulnerability that you said, this open wound, ultimately is just the paying attention
Mhm.
and actually not minimizing it and not dismissing it and not being like, and not seeing it as weak either. You're just having the
Mhm.
humility to say, I'm a human being. I am still a worthy human.
Mhm.
I am fallible. Do you know what that means?
Um, like limited or
Yeah,
yeah,
you're figuring
not
things out.
perfect. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And that's okay.
Mm.
Not in like, well, that means you're going to excuse shitty behavior. Well, no, it just means that you want to correct, you want to
Mhm.
learn, you want to learn, you want to improve upon how you interact with people and you want to be with people who want to interact with you. And so in the
Yeah.
moment, asking questions, wanting to know more, tell me about your experience, tell me about like asking that coworker, let's talk about that and let's like what was that like for you. And because
Mhm.
And you're going to hear a totally different thing than you jump to conclusions about around scapegoating.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are you scapegoat. You were projecting. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you've done it, and yeah. So, because who hasn't? Everybody's fallible, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's making sense, but self-worth is honestly the most impactful thing you can do. It's the most instant type of change that can be made. Because if you feel that your life is valuable, and you may have already kind of connected with this, you believe your human experience has value, and you believe that you as a human to human are worthy of love and connection and friendship and community, then doesn't everybody else? So you see where you're going to project that out now.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go, well, I want them. I want to understand everybody has a life. Everybody has this time here to play and explore and figure things out. That means that they're going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. But in reality, if we can communicate in a way that's,
we can learn from it.
Yeah. And improve upon our relationships. We can actually become more intimate in our relationships, especially those that you feel safe to be vulnerable in. You were never in an environment where when you grew up, you were not safe to be vulnerable. So you protect yourself from that because it feels like the unknown. You've never done it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be something to practice really this week for you. Is actually looking at yourself and your life and recognizing how many different ways can you live a life? How many different ways have humans lived a life and changed within one lifetime to live differently? And why would you want to just stay in your default mode from a child's response to neglect? This feeling of vulnerability, by the way, that you're feeling, it's exactly how it feels when you're a child. It's the same feeling. It's just inevitable that someone you needed a safe person to be with to allow you to have that vulnerability, and you just so happen to be ready for that vulnerability with this current boyfriend. I don't want to keep on just like
No.
But did that make sense to you?
Yeah. I think listening to it and understanding, and I'm not like, I think the normal gut reaction to everything is it's like, it's my experience, the human experience is mine though, like, and you're not really thinking. It was good to hear, and I know this, but that everybody else is as well. And to project your beliefs on them, it makes it, you can't learn from the both experiencing it, whether that's a boyfriend or your mom.
Right. Your limitations. When you say beliefs,
Yeah.
I want you to think limitation.
Yeah.
Now, when you have a limitation, meaning you've never experienced something before, how are you you would have to open yourself up to new experiences for you to know there's different ways to exist and be and to relate. You would have to actually open yourself up to those experiences. Because it's not like you can say, because you haven't had it yet, right? So how can you go out there and go, ooh, oh my God, I'm going to make myself sound like I'm a little wackadoodle. It's not like you're aware of what you don't know. Right? But if you can be aware that you have things you don't know, you're going to be more open.
Yeah. Curious.
Yes. Now you're hitting it. Yes.
Yeah.
You're more likely to be curious and more humble in the curiosity, because curiosity requires the willingness to not know and the willingness to not jump to foresight and to try to predict the future. You're actually being present to say, I want to find out. I'm open. Yeah. I'm open to finding out. And that can be scary. It can be scary.
Well, it makes sense because, like, if you're curious, you're not going to like jump to conclusions. You're going to be cautious and investigate, right?
And be open to what you don't know to find out the truth. So this is interesting because to find out the truth, You could be wrong it could not go the way you want it to.
Mm-hmm.
So the other part about this kind of space of courage, this takes courage to do, is you have to be willing to be wrong. You have to be willing
Mm-hmm.
to not win. You have to be willing to find out the truth. It
Mm-hmm.
feels vulnerable, right? It's like if you found out that your boyfriend, if you got a letter in the mail, okay? This is the scenario that I use in my classroom setting when I try to teach this to the students. And I've been doing this for 4 years. So every year, and it always makes an impact. If you got a letter in the mail that would say, find out if your boyfriend's cheating on you or your girlfriend's cheating on you, and you could open the letter and it would say how, when, how often, you can get all the information or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would it feel like to open that letter? Would you open the letter?
Oh, to find the answer?
Right. What is the truth? Are you willing to open yourself up to
Yeah.
the truth?
And disappointment and the hurt.
And hurt and pain and also security, or just the inevitable end of a relationship that you don't want to end. That opening up to maybe someone else's fallibility, someone else's struggle, someone
Mm-hmm.
else's difference of desire. They want something different. Rejection, abandonment, right? The openness and the willingness to go there is painful, but that
Mm-hmm.
presence, it allows you to have choice, right? It allows you to adjust, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's exploration, right? That's curiosity. It requires the courage to face that you could be wrong. If you are not willing, if you're not open to being wrong, or you're not open to the truth, then you'll never know anything different. You're going to continue to do what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what you've got to be able to go into your mind and open yourself up to is, well, what is the truth of me? If I don't jump to conclusions and I actually seek understanding first, let them tell me their truth rather than me using my framework and forcing them into that framework. What would happen if I opened myself up and believed them?
Mm-hmm.
What does that feel like to you? You're
caring.
It is caring. What does it feel like to you when I first said that? To open yourself up to their truth.
Yeah, I mean, unnatural. Like, I feel like I would always did it the opposite way. Like, this is how I feel. This is how you made me feel. And so picturing that, it's the opposite way. So to me, it feels unnatural, but it doesn't mean that it's not bad.
Right. I'm assuming your previous response was untrusting.
Yeah.
Don't trust that. So, they have, because you couldn't understand you only understand from your framework.
Well, and I was only worried about my experience, right? So if you think of it, maybe that's a fight or flight thing.
Yeah.
So maybe, so looking at it the other way, that seems caring. It seems loving.
Yeah. Well, because you're honoring their truth. You're honoring that they have an experience. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to interface with that. You're actually going to meet them where they're at, and you're going to let them inform your reality around their intention, their integrity, what it is they want and what they don't want. And then how does that, so yes, it's actually loving and honoring of that person's reality. Mm-hmm. If you open yourself up to that, then what happens for you?
You grow.
Now you actually understand someone better, and what happens to that trust. Mm-hmm. You're actually getting to know them rather than projecting yourself onto them as if they are you and you are them. So you're now opening yourself up to an open space of who they are versus a closed space of who you are that you're projecting onto them as if they're the same. Mm-hmm. This brings me back to how many different ways can humans exist, and what experience, Is there an alternative reality that you could be opening yourself up to that you never thought could exist? And is that ultimately for you to go into this a kind of a growing reality, a flowing reality that's like more open rather than closed or fixed? You have to be vulnerable to find out, to say, okay, I want to try a new way of existing. Love that. Try it out. Think different. Would you want to think this way? Consider how much, I don't know if I've said this to you. You need to update your software, right? What would it be like to have your knowledge, your understanding of how you've done it, when it served you, but how much it hasn't? And if you removed that from option now, what would you do? Would you be more open to others, more vulnerable, more loving in how you interact, more willing to say, oh man, I regret what I did. I'm so sorry. I jumped to conclusions. I should have gotten understanding first, right? Or, whatever. But wanting to know the truth is opening yourself up to growth. And the thing about the truth is that it's vulnerable. It's exposing. You could be wrong, right? You could be off. And in order to be okay with that is to have humility and to have compassion for yourself as a human. And that's ultimately what we're talking about, is self-compassion. That is I am not a bad person. I may have made a mistake, or maybe if I wish I would have known better, I would have done better. But I didn't know better, so I did the best with what I knew and what I could. Therefore, right? Yeah, that's that self-compassion part that is really quite healing. That goes down to self-worth underneath it all. What does it mean to have self-worth? It's not, well, I feel worthy because I have all this education, and let me tell you about all my successes, and I feel worthy because, I'm a hard worker. Get rid of that. Right? Get down to the essence of the human experience you're having, and that you don't mean harm, again, because it is a social thing. It's not just how you relate to the life your body's giving you. The most intimate relationship you have is with the body and the life it provides you. Talk about intimate. It's providing you all of your sensory systems and what keeps you conscious. God, you got to value that. And also how you relate to yourself as a character, right? The body that allows you to live, that's the me, right? That, it's like the center of this existence. Me is the experiencer. How I relate to that, because that's just your humanness. That's like my dog's dogness. And then how I relate and interact with other humans. All of those you need to feel that is worthy of you are worthy of that experience. You're worthy of it because you're here. It's you're existing in it anyway. So why not find it valuable? Who is going to, is anybody outside of you capable of validating that?
No.
Tell me more. I want to see, what's your thought on that?
Well, because I feel, because it's not their experience. So them validating it doesn't validate for me that it's my experience.
Right.
So
it's impossible.
Experience. Yeah.
Impossible. It was impossible for your parents to do it for you either.
Yeah.
Because they're in their life, they're in their space, they have their experience. And if they don't value their own, how are they going to teach you how to value your own existence and experience? How can they do that? How can anybody provide you that when they don't have anything that they're in their own? Right? It's honestly, for me, this kind of awareness when this came to me, it was almost like I loved my mother more. I loved my father
Mm-hmm.
more. I've been able to love broader and just let people be themselves because I honor myself. I would love for that. They have to honor themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I can compliment, I can only do so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if someone thinks that it's my job to validate their life and say that their life is worth it, man, that is toxic.
Yeah.
Because that's like them saying it's your job to give me worth. Whoa. I don't know. But you're
Yeah.
right. You're spot on. You're spot on, girlfriend. You totally nailed it. How are they to know? They have their experience. They have their life. They have to be able to experience that color blue. How am
Mm-hmm.
I supposed to validate? Yay, that's a great color. I don't know. Well, my color, if I were to, is pink.
Mm-hmm.
It changes randomly, But I kind of love this hot pink. I like hot pink fuchsia. And often it is blue, or green. Changes. So, yeah, you being able to say, well, for me, it's blue. Can you imagine assuming everybody else is blue too?
Well, I heard this thing one time a long time ago, and I don't know how much of it is true, but that they actually don't know. So, the way that we perceive colors is what we've always been taught: blue is blue, and green is green, and yellow is yellow, and red is red, right? So this always kind of blew my mind. What if we all actually really liked the same colors, but it was just we were told at a young age that it was a different color. We just named it what we saw because how would we know? How do we
Right.
know what the mind actually sees?
Right. It's true. Who the fuck knows? Mine changes all the
Right.
time though. So, and I like them all. The truth is, I really appreciate all colors, but sometimes they stick
Mhm.
out. And sometimes when I look at what I want to wear for the day, I think about, what color sounds good. What do I want to wear tonight?
Mhm.
Anyways, it's that something like that guides my what I wear. It's ridiculous
Mhm. Mhm.
and fun, and I don't give a shit. So if someone doesn't like the color of my outfit, what does that matter? It's not their life.
Yeah.
They should take that source of themselves and apply that to them, right? Anyway, so something as simple as taking ownership of of what you're experiencing and owning it and loving it and being kind to it, right? Like you said, it's like feels kind and loving, and
Mhm.
you're gonna that's what you're gonna start doing with everybody else. Doesn't mean you're gonna have your moments of like fire and rage when it's needed, right? But being able to honor that in yourself allows you to honor that in others. So you got to start with yourself, and you got to let yourself be vulnerable, right? Because you could be doing it wrong, and can you be okay with that,
Mhm.
right? And what's the default? Like, what if you do something wrong? What can you land on with that? Do you need to excuse it, justify it? Do you have to fight for why you did something the way you did so that it's not wrong?
No, I mean, I think that's what I would have probably done in the past. But I think for me, where I'm at right now is a little bit more of awareness and knowing that I'm trying to work on this and recognizing that I'm probably going to be wrong more than I'm going to be right for a long time. And I probably have been wrong for a long time.
But you've never
But
asked for
trying to
clarity,
understand,
right?
yeah, and trying to understand, well, then why did I do that? And why did I feel that way? Why does it make me feel that way? Like, where's that coming from? And then, because I think the next day after we had our little disagreement, it was a lot easier to talk at that point. And he was like, well, I just felt this way. And I was like, and I felt this way. And it really hurt me that you said that, that way. And he was like, well, I didn't realize that's where you were going with it. And I was like, and I didn't realize that it made you feel that way.
Right. You're living in two freaking silos, and you've
Yeah.
got to be able to interact together and say,
Yeah.
hey, hold on. What do you mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
And give someone the option of
Mm-hmm.
course correcting, so that you're both kind of like, because you're both bringing different life, different viewpoints, different experiences, different limitations, and different strengths to then
Mm-hmm.
come together and interface and be able to at least come to the same place to some degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you're communicating and it's being interpreted correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Because chances are there's misinterpretations going on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then guards go up.
Yeah, and it got to a point where I guess I had kind of ran away, and then I came back to the room, and I was like, how can I, in a way, I was like physically trying to be as vulnerable as I could, even though I wasn't verbally being as vulnerable as I could. I mean, I wasn't trying to be argumentative, but so I literally was on my knees. I got on my knees when he was in the bed,
Mm-hmm.
and not like but I was like, just like, look at me, I'm being vulnerable. Like I
Yeah.
finally said it. I was like, at one point, because he was like throwing his hand, and he's like, and you're just doing this, and you're saying this, and I was like, look at me right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here on my knees, like I'm trying to be vulnerable, like please. And then he just grabbed me, and then just held me so tight, and I just cried.
Oh,
Because it was just, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he
just
loves
holding
you.
something tight. Yeah. And I was like, I don't want that, but I really did. It's what
Yeah,
I needed.
yeah.
So, and then we spoke about it the next day. We were a little bit more clear headed about it. So that was good to go through it that way, because it was like, I don't think that I know I'm not doing this right. Let me figure out how to better do it. And then I'm like, even though the natural thing was to run away, I was like, okay, I did that for a couple minutes, and I was like, this isn't right. Like, I'm running away. I know it's not right. And so I went back and kind of faced it. And then even though I didn't do that perfect, it was just like, so it's trying to understand, like, it's okay. I'm not necessarily going to do it perfect. It's a learning experience. I'm trying to change the way that I've been for however long. Right. But also trying to understand, where is he coming from?
Right. Right. And that informs you, right? Again, you're getting informed by his truth. He's getting informed by your truth. And then you're hoping that you can come together and have kind of a shared truth that you can both communicate from. Same thing's going to go for your work relationships. Your goal is to have understanding, recognize ahead of time where your limits are, being willing to, again, that fallibility. And you want people in any relationship you're in, you want them to be able to be vulnerable. You want them to be able to come to you with their truth. And you don't need to immediately dismiss it. Right? That's especially when maybe someone's coming to you with their truth and you can tell it's distorted. Right? Like they made assumptions about you, they jump to conclusions. How do you respond to that on the receiving end, especially when you notice that they are coming to you with a twisted reality based on their framework, based on their limits that they don't know is limited because they've never experienced anything other than their experience. Right? How do you respond to that?
Well, it wouldn't be pointed out.
Well, that's usually my first. It's like, you're distorted. That's not even true. That's not even what I'm doing. And you need therapy. But that's a problem. It's been a problem for me and my husband because he's very much like you in terms of his childhood. Very much. And so my lesson in our relationship as it's changing is that I need to honor his experience, not dismiss his feelings, his reality. Right? And then be able to hopefully he's open to being informed. If he's not, then there's really nothing I can do. Right? Does that make sense? So there's no co-creating. So that can be an issue. But I would say, knowing what I know now from my own experience, because my reality is expanding too, is the ability to actually have empathy in the moment when someone comes to you in distress about something, because that's they're really feeling those things. And to be able to sit there with them with that feeling and let them be safe with those feelings with you, and then to be able from there to maybe have a more constructive way to trying to communicate so you're both on the same planet. Honoring your fallibility and theirs,
Mhm.
That's a hard one, don't you think?
I mean, I think it is. I totally see it. I think that now professionally, I think I'm okay at that. I'm not going to say great, but I know going into being a manager, the way I looked at it was, I'm not going to be perfect at this. I'm learning a new role,
Okay.
but I want to be the best manager that I can be. And if I come at
Mm-hmm.
it with that perspective, I might fail, but I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like we're going to be okay. And then also wanting to recognize that my team is what's going to make me a good manager, right? Like, so whenever we're successful, it's not really,
Sorry, I need to put my battery's going really low, so I have to put my
it's not really me, it's my team that's the success. So recognizing that, I think that on a personal level, I've not looked at it that way.
right.
In relationships, like personal relationships, like, um, but yeah, I think it kind of, for me, instantly shift the way I looked at it when I was an advisor to a manager. I, in a way, miraculously kind of shifted pretty much overnight the way I thought about it.
Hmm.
And other people were like, well, you're terrible to like, well, one, he was like, I did not like working with you as an advisor to advisor, but as a manager, you've been a fantastic manager so far. He's like, I've been shocked at how well you've been awesome.
That's kind of amazing. I love that he was willing to say that.
Yeah, that was just recent. He's going through some hard times and he's going through possibly about to go through a divorce, but and I had just texted him because he was very vulnerable on Friday afternoon. He had done something where he very deceptive and theft basically. But I could see where his mind went with it, and I could see that it just happened on the fly. And then I was like, but it makes you question, like, did he do that before? And so we kind of investigated really quick just to make sure. But both me and my manager were like, what? And it was kind of like being cheated on. Like that's how it kind of felt, because we were like, what? And then of all the people, like I wouldn't have thought it'd be him. And like, if it was somebody like XYZ, this person, like I could have gotten it, but like
Right.
Ryan, really? Like, and it just like even made it hurt even more. And
Yeah.
so anyways, we had kind of instantly forgave him. Granted, it's in the back of our minds, but he brought that up in the lieu of all this stuff that he's going on. And he goes, y'all didn't treat me any differently. You didn't tell anybody about it. I
Right.
mean, these was like grounds we could have fired him like right away, like on the spot, and we didn't. But
You went in fact found first.
we did.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but he said, thank you for that. And he goes, I'm recognizing that going through some of the personal stuff that I'm going through, that I'm not like perfect. I'm going through a bunch of stuff and I need to work on it. I'm going to start going to counseling and yada, yada. And he was very, very vulnerable and thanked us for what had happened a week or two prior. And we said, it's fine. You're okay. And I thought about it on the way down to Atlanta. I was like, that was like super, like, because you can tell he's one of those guys that doesn't think that counseling, like, I can just probably tell that's his type. So I remember thinking on the way there, like, that was super vulnerable for him. To book an appointment to go to counseling, right? But then second, to tell his managers about it.
Right. That's vulnerable. He's fallible. That's him being
Yeah.
self-compassion. He's showing that he is struggling. He's willing to admit that he's struggling. That's what we're talking about when we talk about
Yeah.
the willingness to not avoid the truth, to not dismiss the truth, to not make
Hmm.
excuses, to not abandon the situation, that he actually is willing to stay and you're willing to stay. And that's safe. You've made it a very psychological, safe environment for him to be truthful.
Hmm.
That's amazing.
So I just sent him a voice memo and just said I wanted to let you know that you're going to be okay. And I think that it's very admirable that you're as honest as you are and as open as you are. And that's got to be very difficult. But I see you, I hear you, and you're going to be okay. And he was like, thanks. It's not going to be easy. And I thought that it was going to be. I don't know why he mentioned the thing, but he mentioned the thing about manager to advisor. He was like, I did not like working with you as an advisor, but as a manager, you've been fantastic. And I really appreciate you as well. And blah, blah, blah. And I thought it was really nice, but I
Yeah.
wasn't doing it to get something from me. I
No,
was just
of
trying to
course
let
not.
him know. Yeah.
Well, and that's good feedback for you because it sounds like you came into this with a different frame of thinking and you came into it not competing as an
Yeah.
advisor, right? You're now just
Yeah.
wanting to do good job. You want to benefit these people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel that way.
And I do. There's so many times in the day where I'm just like, oh my god, because like I use the analogy. My boss mentioned it to me. It's like some of them are like chickens, and they just like pluck your eyes out, and it's so true. That is how some of them feel, like just like constant, like plucking.
Right.
So it's trying because you have to like go, okay, why am I annoyed? This is my job. Like, let's try and like, it's really trying on a human scale to not get aggravated, to slow down, because that's not my natural tendency. It's like, boom, 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 boom. One of them is always saying to me, listen, listen. And I'm like, I know where you're at, you know? You can explain to me in a minute. I already know what you're going at. I know the angle you're going and I can fix it, right? But he just wants me to listen to the whole story. And I'm like, Lord God. Like, so it's like, it's trying me at a human core level because I'm like, I don't want to listen, you know? So,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Wow. Tell me this. This is our third session.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the direction you were wanting?
I think it's big. I think it's huge. I mean,
Because
I
I
don't know what
honestly, go
other.
ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, no, no. I don't know what direction to
Me
go because
neither.
there's things. Yeah, because
Me
there's.
neither. We're just going and we're just hitting things. This to me
Yeah.
is kind of how it's always worked with clients that I've worked with. If I find something and see something, you can tell I'm like, pause, rewind, like we
Yeah.
need to address something there. But this is kind of where this is going. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that if you're like, well, I really want to focus in these different areas, that we can kind of adjust into those areas. Because right now it's
Mm-hmm.
really come down to your self-awareness. That's what we're talking about is self-awareness,
Yeah.
being present, not just being run by your default, and actually opening yourself up to expand your default to have a wider variety, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're seeing one, this is impacting your boyfriend, your relationship with your boyfriend, and also clearly the relationships you have in your work environment, which is very large for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you reached out, I think, was for weight loss,
Well, yeah, but I think
disordered
that.
eating stuff.
Yeah, and I think that that's a lot of that is being present, right? Like thinking of like, why am I going to food? Is it because I'm bored? Is it because, so why is there boredom? Why is there stress? Why is the stress? Am I running to food to make me feel better in a stressful situation because I'm not understanding and I'm running from the emotion?
Right. Right. So has that just naturally kind of,
It's gotten better for sure in the last couple of weeks.
isn't that interesting?
I know.
Because I'm not kidding you. Over the course of the last, how long have I been doing these YouTube videos? For 15 years almost?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, 15 years. This, I have found that emotional eating, disordered eating, just kind of stops because it is a way of coping and not changing and not facing and not being present, because the present is scary, the present is painful, and you want to distract and dismiss and avoid, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so those coping behaviors can give you temporary kind of dopamine, and but if we actually go into the source of your humanness, we actually go into that self-worth, we actually go into the willingness to be present with discomfort and finding out what is the discomfort, what is it very specifically. Like, you're already starting to like connect those dots, like, well, I'm asking myself, why am I bored? Well, why am I bored? Because you're being present with the boredom. You're not
Mm-hmm.
just denying boredom and and saying, well, I'm not bored, I'm eating, or whatever. Not that that's a logic,
Mm-hmm.
but it just naturally happens. And once you kind of get the kind of the this new default of presence, and you can recognize your old kind of patterns, but you also, in the moment where you're like, well, it would be really easy, as you're being vulnerable and you have your wound and you're trying to lick it and mend it, and then all this shit hits you, you're like, well, the easy thing for me would be like, fuck it, that's easy, right? The hard thing would be to just express your feelings. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
to get on your knees and be like, I'm being vulnerable, and to be vulnerable. That's not the easy thing for you. That
Mm-mm.
actually takes, like, again, the openness to know the truth, to find out the truth, and to be in that open space, to see if there's a different way to handle these situations, a different way to actually experience life, rather than just going in circles around the same thing because you're afraid to change. You're afraid of what you
Mm-hmm.
don't know, you know?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the goal, I would say, is, of course, not to get rid of fear. That's never going to go away, but just to be open to fear,
Mm-hmm.
because you're safe with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying, why don't you go out and hike in the wilderness without bear spray? Because
Yeah.
we're going to face our fear. No, bring your gun and your bear spray. Um, but you got to be open to recognizing there's a whole reality. And again, I always go into the plethora of human experiences and the willingness to experience those things, because you have a whole life to live, not just this one experience to stay in just because it's the one thing you know. Go into what the unknown is. Could it be
Mm-hmm.
better? Could it be different?
It's crazy because it's actually started shifting some of my, like, I'm at a point where I'm about to like kind of negotiate pay again with what I'm doing. And at first they wanted to like pay me less, and I was like, absolutely not, and negotiated that, and they gave me like a 6 month whatever. So that's coming up, and I'm like, is that now or is that a month from now? I can't remember. And but I was talking to Jeff about it. I'm like, this just changes. My mind is changing on all of it, because it's like it's important to pay, but it's there's no way I would do it for less or what I was just making before, because it's blending into my life. It's like bleeding over into my personal life so much more than it was as just a regular advisor. So it's shifting, like the way we're talking is shifting the way I'm looking at my work. Like, how is that affecting my personal life? Like, right? Like, how much that I'm treasuring my personal life and saying, not that I don't want my work, I enjoy it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to bleed into my personal and bother my personal life, and there's got to be some kind of balance there.
What about your personal life, your personhood bleeding into work now?
I think that's making me better at work.
Yes.
For sure.
That's kind of what we're doing. We're like, well, let's
Yeah.
get you whole within yourself. Let's open yourself up to that feeling of experience that you didn't get as a kid. You're just getting it as an adult. And I'm here to tell you right now, at least from my experience, the cool thing about being able to mature as an adult rather than a child is it happens so much faster. You don't have to go through junior high again or high school. It's so much better to mature as an adult. It's like, updating my software. I'm still updating my software. I still have shit to learn. My husband and I are going through all sorts of shit. We've been married 29 years. We're still not doing well. Right? In and out, deciding if we're going to separate or not, So these are really relevant, and they don't just now that once you're going to get this, you have to practice and you have to apply and you're going to get new experiences and you're going to have to apply it in a different way and open yourself up again to be able to say, well, how does one navigate this type of thing? I've never done this before. How do I do it? It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish, I don't want to be like ones that's like, oh, I was crying over spilled milk or not realizing, but I wish that I had realized how needed this was 10 years ago. How much impact could it have had on my life in the last 10 years,
Yeah, well, for whatever reason, you're ready now.
Yeah. No, I know.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's like getting LASIK. I should have fixed my eyes 20 years ago. You know what I mean? But whatever. You got to forgive that and recognize the process that you took to get to this place. That there were little lessons here and there, and you needed to repeat the same thing over and over and over and over again and see that, oh, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe it's me. I'm doing the same thing with this relationship that I really honor and like that I did with the last one and the previous one and the previous one. So maybe it's me. So that took humility for you to even face that in a moment, for you to go, God, maybe it is me. Or maybe you've known, but you've just never had the patience or whatever circumstance that you've needed to be in this. And then to go, I'll talk to Robin. All right, let's look at our next time. I think it's Sunday.